Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy is dead.
And today we're filling out the character roles with this character build, the Healer.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we've covered the different roles, basically that have kind of sprung up from MMOs, I guess, the titles.
Your tank, your DPS, controller, the only thing really left is the healer.
I don't even think we've done controller yet, but we're going to get to that. But today we're doing the healer. Now look, these archetypes have always existed in Dungeons & Dragons for as long as I can remember. We just called them different things.
Right.
So we're going to delve into the healer today, and there's actually a bunch of different ways to be a healer in Dungeons & Dragons.
So when we started down this path, we had to look at what are the options and what does it mean to be the healer, the heal bot. And for the most part, if you're going to be the healer, well, you're the one that patches everybody up. So who gets access to healing magic? So you've got your Cleric, obviously. You got your druid, you got your bard, and you've got your Paladin. Now,
don't forget the favorite soul, Sorcerer.
If you're willing to go into the Unearthed Arcana, there is the favorite soul archetype for Sorcerer. Granted. Now, when you look at what you want to do, are you talking about someone who is just taking care of hit points, or are you talking about someone who's got the ability to mitigate conditions like poisoned, diseased, that kind of stuff?
Because status effects.
If you're going down that way, which I think the healer typically does, then you really want to look at Paladin, because Paladin has that lay on hands ability that not only does he have the ability to just wave those things away without casting a spell, just using his lay on hands, but he can affect multiple things and healing with just one touch.
That's super useful, and he can also wade into the center of combat. It's not that big a deal for him. He's already kind of the tank anyway, and he can also produce a lot of damage if he needs to. And there's really like the real problem, right? He actually is, he's way better at doing some of these other things like tanking damage and dishing it out. So that is going to mitigate how good he can be when it comes to actually healing.
That is true. So we talked off air, and we talked about that the bard and the druid, they kind of fall more into a support role than they would be at just being a healer.
While your druid can do healing, he probably he makes a better tank, believe it or not, or a controller than he does a healer. And then the bard is kind of a special case.
Right. So we can just shelve those two because there's just not enough oomph in those two. Yes, the bard could get expertise in medicine. Yes, he can get his his magical secrets and get access to some of the more powerful healing spells. But at the end of the day, he's just not going to do as good as a cleric.
Right. So at a certain point, why bother? Just do the thing, right? Be the thing.
So you brought up favorite soul. You want to go into that one?
Yeah, favorite soul actually was kind of leading the pack for a little while because it's an interesting choice in the sense that you can have access to all the healing spells, right? Not a problem. That's very important. And you can fireball if you need to too. Also might be important. But here, there's a couple problems though. One is the sorcerer gets the least amount of spells in the whole entire game for full casters. That's a problem. Mitigating factor that kind of makes it less of a problem is they get meta magic, which is really fun and interesting.
Not only that, they're the ones that get it. Nobody else has got access to being able to, you know what, I'm gonna distant cure, I'm gonna twin cure, I'm gonna quicken a cure and then use a magic item.
Yeah, and think about like those spells that are really high level that work at a range. While using distant, you can still do that, but you just extended out how far you can go with those.
Right. So you get access to a lot of really neat tricks. But when we sat down and looked at Cleric, I mean, come on, Cleric is the healer. That's what everybody knows. And, we can look at knowledge and trickery and war and blah, blah, blah. None of them compare anywhere near what life clerics can do.
Yeah, well, oddly enough, I think the favorite soul actually beats out all the clerics but life.
Well, that is pretty interesting. So let's look at the life cleric. For starters, they get the ability to, when they cast a healing spell, they're just bumping it by extra points.
2 plus level of the spell. Not bad.
Now, that's not per die, that's just once, right?
Yes.
So still not bad. So it's like, oh, well, you're going to cast a 9th level heal spell. All right, well, it's going to do an extra 11 points. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
So now we look at, what they can wind up doing besides that, and we talk about their channel divinity.
I was a little surprised by this one. I guess I haven't looked at it in a while. And it's like, they basically get lay on hands in a radius, affect as many creatures as they want. I mean, it's one pool to draw from, and they only get so many channel divinities. They don't get the status effects of the Paladin.
But just the straight healing, which that's more than enough if you ask me.
5 times your level in healing the dish out around you.
Which is literally equal to what the Paladin has.
Exactly.
And they don't have to touch.
They just do not. Right, and you might not want to get that close, so that works out really well. But from there, it just keeps getting better. They're like, oh, you're healing other people? Well, now not only do you heal them, but you get back 2 plus the level of the spell when you heal them. So there's even more healing going on.
So, all right, now let's look at the cap of the whole thing. When you get to 17th level as a life cleric, you literally maximize any healing dice that you do. Oh, you're rolling those d8s? No, you're not rolling them. They're just all 8s.
Yeah, the maximize is a huge deal, especially for anything where it's not like, here, you get back X amount of hit points. No, this is good stuff.
So, when I looked at, what if we combine? Like, we need 17 levels of cleric. That gets us access to that ability. That gets us access to 9th level cleric spells. But that's 3 more levels to play with.
It is. Indeed.
So, what if we took some of that favored soul and mixed that with our life cleric?
That works out for several reasons. One, their first level ability of, oh, I made a die roll and I can add 2d4 to it if I need to. Super sweet. It's not thematically healing, but their other ability is pretty decent, and that is the fact that they get to choose from the clerics list. So they don't even have, like, if they don't want to mix and match and they just want to keep adding more cleric spells and heal spells, they can totally do it from there. And not only that, certain spells like Cure Wounds, right? It's a first level spell, but then it's whatever slot you have. Healing Word, again, another low level spell. So you could literally fill up your low level spells, healing spells, with your sorcerer spells known. So then that frees up your cleric spells where you're praying each day and you're swapping out spells, and you don't have to worry about those.
Right. So here's the fun thing that you have the ability to do. Imagine being able to walk on the battlefield. I mean, yeah, you've already got access to mass heal, 700 points that you can just divvy as you see fit, in your radius. That's pretty amazing.
It's not bad.
Not bad at all. But what happens when you decide, oh, well, I'm going to not only cast this spell quickened, but then be able to use my channel divinity and bump that up another 85 points.
It's not a bad deal.
Because I quickened it. Like, woo! 785 points worth of healing in one round. I don't think you're going to get much better than that.
Or what about that time when the paladin or the fighter or the barbarian are in the thick of combat, is completely surrounded by enemies, and you really need to use a Cure Wound spell on them with a 9th level slot, but you can't get to them, or you really don't want to? You can use Distance spell 30 feet away, and boom, they're going to get a ridiculous amount of hit points back.
Well, 9th level spell, that's 72, but it's 9th, so you're going to tack on another 11. So that's 73, and then you're going to heal that 11 back to yourself as well.
That's a lot of healing going on.
So I don't know of anybody that's really I'm going to use my 9th level spot for a single Cure Wound spell, but hey, it's possible.
You never know. Sometimes, what if he's only at his damage and you don't want to use that high level spell? I mean, I guess it's the same, but it gives you the option. So you're only going to have 3 points to play with, and I guess you can always use your low level slots to refill them. But Distant and Quicken spell are great buys. Twin would be awesome, but it's not worth it because the cost goes up depending on the spell level. So it's not really good for this build. Now,
if you were willing to, step away from the powerful 17th level ability and you wanted to go like 13th level Cleric, 7th level Sorcerer, you'd have a little bit more leeway to play with. You'd be saying goodbye to those high level Cleric spells, but you'd still have access to some powerful stuff. You'd have access to more Sorcerer abilities. You'd have access to more Sorcerer points, as well as more meta magic options.
Well, and the other thing too, why the pairing of Sorcerer and Cleric work together really well is they're both full casters, so you're not losing spell level slots. It's just a matter of what's the highest level spell you're going to be able to cast.
Right, and we've literally seen that in games where, you know, we had a spellcaster who split, and you had a spellcaster who didn't, and the one who didn't was literally dominating the battlefield.
Yeah, they just get access to the more powerful spells, where the other one's going to have access to more versatility. So it just depends on what kind of healer you want to be. But I think in this case, you're still pretty much almost always going to be better off just going with Life Domain Cleric. I mean, they made it really good. There's literally only one Life Cleric ability that isn't thematic and isn't that great.
And well, that's the bland 8th level ability that they all have.
Yeah, most of them have, where you just do extra damage, and frankly, if you're hitting things as the Life Cleric, you're probably doing something wrong anyway. So somehow things have gone horribly wrong.
We should get into feats.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's 2 feats that ring out in my opinion. First and foremost, you're a healer, so what should you have? Well, how about the healer feat?
It's very useful. There's a couple reasons. One, you know, every time you expend any use of healing, it's a die 6 plus 4 hit points. So
plus the actual hit die of the person you're using it on.
Yes. So you're getting back some hit points. Perfect. You can use it every short rest on someone. Healer kits are inexpensive. It's a great way, especially low to middle levels, to get some extra healing in.
Not only that, though, because I mean every adventurer should be walking around with their own healer's kit just to be on the safe side. But if you use a healer's kit on somebody who you're using it to stabilize them, rather than them just being stabilized, they're at 1. So it's literally that free point of healing when they're dying. So that gets them up and that gets them in action.
It's almost like a good berry without the full belly.
So there's another one that I think you brought up.
Inspiring Leader.
You know, because the only thing better than healing is giving them hit points that they don't need to heal.
Exactly. You know, those hit points, it's almost like they were never there. So it frees up the cleric to do other things other than, you know, healing the damage has been done to him if you're taking away from temporary hit points.
So, you know, we talked about this being a heal bot, and, you know, we have to imagine Nathan Nerdarchy here in spirit, and he's like, well, the only way to make a proper heal bot would be to have him be a bot. So he says this guy should be a Warforged.
He did say that. It was a horrible pun. We're sorry. So,
I'm not.
And he also said those 3 levels of Sorcerer should be Chaos Sorcerer because his heal bot is named Glitch. So that one's for you, Nathan Nerdarchy.
So what do you guys think? Is there anything that we got wrong? Is there anything that you think should be added to this healer build? There's a great place to continue that conversation, and that's down in the comments. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can hang out with us over on nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.